So as you can see from the TV behind us, this week will not be as awkward and definitely will not be as much fun as last week's, but talking about healthy relationships, as always, the first question is, how did you meet your wife and how long have you been married?
Well, you want me to go first?
Go for it.
All right. Well, how I met my wife, well, my dad was an optometrist, and I followed in my dad's footsteps. So I was sleeping in one Saturday morning, and my mother called, and she said, now I've got the most beautiful girl I've ever seen up here at the office, and she's getting some contacts from your daddy, and I'm going to hold her here till you can get up here. So I rushed and got cleaned up and went up to the office, and I sat down there and started talking to her, and I, tried to impress her with, being there and everything, and she was totally unimpressed. So she more or less kind of blew me off, and I told my mother, don't you ever do me like that again. But as you can see, for some reason, she did decide to, at a time later on, allow me to date her. Oh, and how long we've been married? August the 11th of this year, it'll be 46 years. I was just a child.
Me and Amber went to school together. We didn't know each other much through junior high. We got into high school. We had a few mutual friends that hung out with each other, and that's how we met each other, through some friends. We hung out a few times, and I asked her, that second or third time we hung out, I asked her if she'd go to the movies with me, and she said yes. We got to talking. We were both raised in the Church of Christ. We dated for about 6 years, and we've been married for about 10.
I've been married 22 years. Married my high school sweetheart. Thank you. Somebody's got it. All right. I was set up with my best friend, who was dating somebody, and one of her better friends, my future wife, wasn't dating anybody. They're like, why don't we set these two people up? So we went to a football game back in the day when Itawamba was in the same division as Olive Branch, which is a very dark time in our athletic history. And we went in the rain and watched Olive Branch beat our team 44-0, and never stopped dating after that. I don't know, just magical something other there. We did eat at Captain D's. Very underrated romantic place. Just an FYI for all those people out there. All right, y'all are laughing. That's good. This will make it easier.
It was such a good date, he remembered the exact score they lost by.
I did. I also know what I ordered. I know what she ordered, and she wouldn't let me pay for it. I was prepared. I'd borrowed money from my dad and everything. Because I didn't have money.
Awesome.
Yeah, come prepared.
All right, so with most of the questions we ask, I tell people that I want the answer pretty much just off the top of your head, but I think this is one I'm glad they were able to sit and think about. Both for a married couple and a dating couple, describe what you see as a healthy relationship.
Okay, in the world we live in today, we have about 50% of the people who get married are going to end up in divorce. So I think we need to find, I want to tell you what I think is a way that we can improve those odds for you. Now, the world tells you to sow your wild oats. It tells you to drink and smoke and take drugs and have premarital sex. And it tells you, well, if you do those things, you can be forgiven later on, but then you'll have that out of your system. And that's not what the church tells you. It's true that you can be forgiven, but that's not the purpose of this. The purpose of not doing those things is to develop character. And if you can begin your relationships based on character, then you'll have a lot better chance later on in life to have a healthy relationship with the thing that we're aiming for tonight. And when I first started dating Miss Bonnie, when we finally did have that first date, Miss Bonnie, I went over there, and our first date involved going to my grandparents' house and spending the afternoon on a Sunday afternoon at my grandparents'. So then when I carried her home, and as time went on, well, she explained to me that if I was going to date her, that there were certain ground rules. Now, she didn't smoke and she didn't drink, and she told me in the very beginning that if I was going to date her, I would treat her with honor and respect. So I was perfectly willing to do that. I could see the quality of her, and I wanted to do that. So that's kind of the way that we got started off. And I think that that's going to explain a lot of the things later on in here about how that you can stay married for 46 years and your relationship just continues to grow and get stronger as time goes on.
To have a healthy relationship, I mean, while dating, I mean, you need to spend a little time with each other while you're dating, but don't spend a whole bunch of time with each other. Still make time for yourself and friends and family. Because if you spend a lot of time, you get to arguing more, get to fighting more. But I mean, as a married couple, you go to work every day and you come home to each other at night, so you ain't got just the afternoons to spend time with each other. So, I mean, to make it healthy, you gotta be understanding of each other's needs and communicate with each other a lot and just be respectful for each other.
All right, adding on to that, I think it's also incredibly important that you find somebody, and when you're in a relationship, that you can look in the mirror and say, does this person make me want to be a better man, a better woman? Does this person push me, cause me to strive to be better spiritually, morally, all of those things? Does that person make me, or do they allow me to just make excuses to slack off? Anytime, of course, I'm answering a lot of the questions that are kind of trickling down from that, so we can reiterate them in a minute. But do they make you want to become a better person? And also another thing in a healthy relationship, are you comfortable with who you are around that person? Okay, so I know those two things may sound like they contradict each other, but I don't believe that they do. Maybe we can further explain that throughout the night.
Okay. Similar question, just a little bit more specific. If you had to pick one or two aspects that are necessary for a relationship to be healthy, what would you say those are?
Like Chris was mentioning there, honor and respect are, number one on the list there. And when you have that honor and respect, the thing that you want to do is to not do anything to mess it up. So if you treat your date, with honor and respect, and she is reciprocating, well then, that's a lot better than, most of the other dates that I had gone on with other people. So I could tell that Bonnie was very special from the very beginning. I may be adding something here I might need to talk about later, but when I had been going out with other girls, I didn't really feel like that they were interested in what was the best thing for me. It was more like what was the best thing for them. Now, Miss Bonnie was a little different than that. She was interested in what was I would be interested in, and she wanted to know what she could do to make me happy, and I could just tell that I could feel that we had a connection, between each other that I didn't have with anybody else. At the beginning, when I was first dating, I thought that there was just one person for me, and as I dated different girls, I decided, well, there isn't anybody for me. And then when Miss Bonnie came along, she changed my mind again, and I think there is just one person for me. So Actually, I think she's running it for anybody else, Miss Bonnie. I don't think that I would be very suitable for anybody besides you.
I can kind of tell who's listening now because he just snuck something in. That was pretty funny there. And if you weren't listening, you didn't catch it. So.
Oh, to have a happy relationship there, you gotta have communication. You gotta talk to each other, let the other one know how you feel. You gotta have trust between each other. I mean, if you ain't got trust or communication, then it's hard to build a relationship on that. I mean, me and my wife, we talk all the time, and I mean, that's one thing that keeps our relationship strong is we communicate with each other. And without that, I mean, it's hard to keep a healthy relationship.
I think, of course, what they both said are things that I had thought about as well, but the common interest of your faith is going to be very important. And I don't know what all you've talked about in other nights like this, but you know, I feel like I have a unique perspective. My wife grew up in a Baptist church. I am the grandson of a Baptist preacher. You know, I've been down the road of the discussion where, you know, we realized if it's going to get serious, at some point we both agreed we didn't want to raise our family in a split church family type situation, and that discussion has to be had. And so the concept of having a basis for an understanding of what the Bible teaches and what is, salvation and grace and all these different things, these discussions, at some point, but I am a firm believer that you date to marry. You do not date to hang out. You're not just like a really good friend who just happens you hang out with. You're dating to marry. And at some point, that's what we would want to teach you. But I think the basis of a consistent faith, a belief that you have the same understanding of that, I think that's important.
All right. I always like to look at kind of opposites with things like this. So we've talked about two things that are necessary for a healthy relationship, and on the flip side, things that would make an unhealthy relationship.
Well, I'll just make mine short and sweet. If honoring and respecting is the goal, then dishonoring and disrespecting would be the opposite. So that's kind of what I feel on that.
And it's basically the same thing with the unhealthy relationship. I mean, if you ain't got communication and trust and understanding of each other, then you're not going. I mean, it's going to be an unhealthy relationship. I mean, you gotta work at it to make it work. I mean, it's a lot of communication in a relationship.
Are there things that you can't talk to your person about? Or is there? Do you have to go behind their back to do things? If those things are happening, that is not a healthy relationship. If you can't tell them where you are and in total confidence they're okay with it, either you need to look in the mirror or they need to look in the mirror, but something needs to be done with that relationship, because either you're doing something wrong or there's a trust factor. And so as you enter into a relationship and it's building and it's growing, trust is vital. Anything that violates trust. And as you get into a relationship, secrets cannot be kept. They cannot be kept. You think it's there, but in moments of stress, and we're going to get into this in a moment because we're going to talk about fighting and stuff. But in moments of stress, those things will creep out. And any time there's been any type of harboring of a secret, whatever that secret may be, and we can get deep and dark, and we can get lighthearted. But secrets are not good unless you're planning like a surprise birthday party or something. That's different. But you get that. You know what I'm talking about. So anytime that you can't tell them what you're doing comfortably and know that you're not going to explain yourself, that should be a sign that you're in an unhealthy relationship.
I'm gonna pick on you just a little bit because these
Please
guys
do.
gave answers and then said the exact flip flop of it is be unhealthy, and you had something different. So, with your healthy aspect would be a common faith.
Mm-hmm.
We'll ask, do you think it is possible while dating? You mentioned kids raised in different households, so that kind of answers married. You think it's able a couple is able to have a healthy relationship having different faiths?
I have my wife has a really close friend. They raised their family, one in the church and one going to a Baptist church. They have a son, he was raised in the Baptist church. They have a healthy relationship. It wouldn't work for me. I could not go to, I can't, no, my wife's not here tonight. She's a travel physical therapist, okay? She travels all around Monroe County and Lee County seeing people and rehabbing their legs and arms and stuff like that, okay? She came home and I thought she might, and then at 5 o'clock when I had to go start getting ready to get out down the road here, she was asleep. So I was like, oh, no, that ain't happening. She was tired. She worked hard all day. But generally speaking, if I go somewhere, she's with me. She is my best friend. And if your wife or your husband is not your best friend, newsflash, you look in the mirror. All right. My dad told me that many years ago. It's still very, very true. That needs to be your best friend. That's the person you confide in. Okay. I couldn't do it. I would have a hard time with it. I couldn't stand the fact that my kids were going to a church because kids probably gonna go with mama. The whole nurturing aspect and whatnot. It would devastate me. I couldn't have been in a relationship like that. Can it work? I've seen it work. They're a happily married couple. I just couldn't imagine on Sunday morning getting in two cars going in different directions.
Possible, but extremely difficult.
It would be. It would take a special relationship. Now I've seen relationships in my own family where the mama goes to church and the husband stays at home and is a lazy goofball. And for all honesty, he's like, no, that's my time. That's my me time. And I've seen that. And if they won't go to church with you, that's also another sign to me for being all serious and stuff that you need to think about it.
All right, so I feel like I've started saying this about every week, but again, these guys have been married for at least longer than I have, so they're going to have a different perspective than you. But with that perspective, while you are dating, how much time is necessary to spend together to maintain a healthy relationship, and how much time is too much?
Well, you have to do. Now, I agree with everything Chris was saying over there. That was really good, Chris.
Thank you. I like that.
And
I don't get to hear that a lot.
and I think that, like Chris was saying, that with Miss Bonnie, I feel like that the two of us together make one pretty good person. Because we're really joined together. I just can't think about any time for us not being apart. I like to spend as much time with her as I possibly can, and we work together, and everything that we do together. When we go someplace, well, I'd rather her be with me than me going with other people actually. And we always have a good time when we're together. And how much time we spend together, well, now that I'm married, I don't mind the time that I spend with her. I look forward to that. But before we were married, we tried to. She was going to school at Blue Mountain. I was going to Ole Miss. So Blue Mountain just allowed I think, was it 1 weeknight date a month or something like that, Bonnie? Or maybe 2 date night weeks? But whatever it was, well, she moved back home to be with her mama, and then I could drive from Oxford to Ashland. And so we would have our dates over at her mama's house. So I tried to not spend too much time because I was in pre-med and I had to keep my grades up, and also it was during the Vietnam War, and Miss Shelton would send me a notice that she'd have something for me to do if I didn't keep my grades up. I could go over to Vietnam. So I had several reasons that were encouragements to me. And but I think that there can be too much time, because like if you're spending way too much time, you know, when you're dating, things can fall apart. But I had several compelling reasons to not spend too much time, just a healthy amount of time.
Basically like what Mark said, I mean, dating at a young age, you don't really want to spend too much time, especially if you're still in school. I mean, you need to make time for each other, you know, at 1 afternoon, 2 afternoons a week, but you still got to focus on other stuff, like your family. You still got to make time for your friends, church. You just got to take time for yourself sometimes. I mean, maybe, you know, 2 or 3 nights a week, see each other. On the weekend, make one day to go out on a date or something. But you don't want to spend a lot of time, because like I said earlier, if you spend a lot of time together, then you get to fighting and fussing and having more arguments with each other.
This is a difficult question for an introvert. Okay, although I teach and talk in front of people all the time, I am an introvert. INTJ, if you want to look at all the personality types up, I'm really, really odd. Asking me how much time, because I'm a person who gets like, Cody was like, thanks for driving on. It's like, I got an hour by myself. You know how awesome that was? I solved at least 3 world problems. I got another hour back. I got some coffee. I might get some more coffee. No, I need to go to bed at some point. I got to teach in the morning. But asking me how much time for it is an unhealthy relationship. I don't have a lot of friends. Like, I thought I just picked up 30 some odd new friends. I don't have a lot of friends. Mark Carnathan, he's one fellow deacon with me at West Main. Andrew Sweeney, another, you know, my friends are like the little deacon inner circle. Right? I don't know if your church has the inner circle of deacons, but those are my friends. We're the ones that we work with all the time. Okay. When my wife went to medical school in Jackson. Okay, I was at Mississippi State, and so we were, what's that about? Back in the day, that was about a good 3-hour drive, because they didn't have it 4-lane all the way. But about a 2.5 hour drive difference. So sometimes I could go down and see her and whatnot. But you know, healthy, you need to be communicating as much as, you know, as you continue to date, as it starts getting serious. As long as the line of communication, their need of communication is being met, your level of communication is being met, you can talk with FaceTime and all the things that you guys have that we didn't have last millennium when I was dating. You know, that's a hard, I don't know if I know how to answer that question. I guess that was a long way of saying I don't know. But you'll know what feels right, and if it doesn't feel right, that should be your spidey senses telling you something.
Well, like so many of the questions we've asked in this class, a lot of it depends on this and depends on that, depends on you and the person you're dating. Yeah, there's no blanket right answer. And you got an extrovert who says, I'll spend all the time I want with her, and he's happy to get an hour by himself. So even though they're married, you get different answers. And I'm thankful Megan works some at night, so I get my time. So, I mean, it sounds bad, but he just said he's happy to get an hour. Don't judge me.
My wife, we're both introverts. We haven't been invited over to somebody's house in a long time. Because if you don't say yes, after a while, they just stop asking. It's okay. We're okay. We function. We hold down jobs. We pay our bills. I may never get invited back to the Church of Christ.
Well, Chris, let me introduce you to my family. We all love you. You can come back anytime.
Chris, I work here. You're fine.
Okay, thank you.
You went to state, I don't know.
I also went to Arkansas State. Online.
What's that?
It's all the teachers know. It's just the hurdle you jump through to get a pay raise.
Well, now getting back on topic of things. On to some fun questions. Obviously, everyone in here who's been in a relationship realizes that fighting is going to happen. How can you fight in a healthy way?
Well, when it comes to fighting, it seems like that women have they know your buttons. Now, with a man now, when you push his button, now he responds. So, as a man, I would say, first thing you need to do when that button gets pushed and you feel that flush in your face, then you should take a deep breath. And don't say what you were about to say. No matter what, do not say that was about to come out of your mouth. So that will save a lot way down the road. I am here to tell you that if you say that word or those words, she will forgive you, and then every time that y'all have another fight, she'll remember it and she'll remind you of it. Now, and I said, Bonnie, you forgave me for that. And she said, well, that was then. So women are like elephants in that they never forgive. So be careful. Be careful what you say and what you think. And how you put it.
Mark, how come your face so red?
Well, I promise I'd be honest with the group here.
See, Chris is the lucky one because his wife's not here to hear him. So, he's not going to fight when he gets home. He'll fight later when she sees it on YouTube.
But we're going to get it.
I mean, how do you follow up what you said? I mean, you are going to have disagreements and stuff while you're in a relationship. Like he said, the best thing to do in a guy's situation when that feeling comes over, just take a breath, calm down, then go into it with an open mind and understanding of what the other is trying to get across. But, I mean, he pretty much summed it up, so, I mean, that's really nothing else to say on that one.
Trying to think of some of the wisdom that has been imparted to me upon over the years. Don't be afraid of a fight. A healthy fight. I like the question. I read this. I was like, ooh, kudos, Cody. Don't be afraid of conflict. That is opportunity to grow, right? You grow under stress. I used to like to lift weights. And you put yourself. Yeah. You put yourself. I used to. That's what he said. You could tell. You put your body under stress, right? Back when Brad and I were playing basketball against each other way back in the day, last millennium, we put ourselves under stress a lot to be able to grow, to get better, stronger, and faster, right? Sometimes in a relationship, you're going to have those conflicts, and those are opportunities because your wife is going to tell you what is bothering her. Now, we joke and we laugh about this, and then we'll say, I would just tell her, you're right, honey. But the fact is, at that moment, she's telling you the genuine things that are bothering her. That's an opportunity for you to listen. And you can sit there and go, oh, yeah, but if you do that, you're going to be unhappy. Now, hopefully, you'll have an opportunity, you have an open relationship there, and a trust relationship built on years of trust. And she's going to listen to what your concerns are as well. Now, that might need to be 10, 15 minutes later, afterwards, because, as they said, you might have to calm down, take that deep breath. But don't be afraid. A fight doesn't mean that it's over. I remember my parents fought. I'm not, naive. I heard some very loud disagreements that happened in the back of the house. They never fought in front of us. My wife and I, if we have a fight or a disagreement, it doesn't happen in front of the kids. Of course, this is more marriage than dating. Most of you guys are not at that point yet, but you're learning what you're going to do. But don't be afraid. And also, I'm going to say this. I was taught this years and years ago. Pick your mountain to die on. Okay? My wife, that's on? She is having
It's
a good
blinking.
account. Okay. My wife doesn't put stuff up. Like, when she gets done with the hairbrush, she goes right on top of the thing. That bothers me. Okay? Toilet paper rolls don't get replaced. They just get on top. That bothers me. Toothpaste gets pushed from the top, not the bottom. That bothers me. That is not the mountain to die on. Because my wife is amazing. She's loving. She's caring. She makes more money than I did. All sorts of different things that are amazing. That last part was just a joke. No, she actually does, but it was not the most important thing. But you pick your mountain to die on. Not everything's worth Armageddon. Okay, it's not. It's not end game.
I'm learning along with y'all on some of these fighting questions, just so y'all know. So along with arguments, you're going to have disagreements. How can you handle some of those silly disagreements without them turning into a fight, a full-on fight?
Well, now, Chris nailed that part. Now,
Right.
when did you, the first thing when did you get your button pushed and you have calmed back down? Well, then you have to, like you said, there are certain things that you just have to, be prepared to knock the bark off with. So it's okay to disagree, but you need to wait and get over that first emotions where that you can handle it. And the thing that you'll realize is, now this is when you're married. I realized that Bonnie and I are a team. Now, I've got her best interest at heart, and I know that what she's saying to me is my best, what she's got in her heart is my best interest. Now, when I first hear what she says, it may not sound like she's got my best interest at heart. But when we sit down and discuss it, then later I can see where she's coming from. Then I go, okay, well, men and women really don't understand each other's language. We both speak in English, but it's not connecting. Bonnie will tell me something, and I'll be shaking my head, and she says, "You don't know a word I'm saying, do you?" And I'll say, "No, I don't know." And then we do sit down, and we've had a chance to go over it, and I realize, I misunderstood maybe what you were saying, or I think that I do agree with your position on this. I see where you're going with it, because a lot of times her input into things, she handles these things about personal relationships so much better than I do. I think if I say something, well, they just ought to not worry about it. But she says, wait a minute, now if you say that, they're going to hear something that's going to hurt their feelings or whatever. And I said, I don't think about feelings like that much, man. But so I try to run things by her, and I think that she does that with me too. Sometimes we'll come across things that I have a little bit more insight on than she would, and we can sit down, and she knows that we're doing this for the family. It's a team. It's teamwork. And as long as we realize that if when you think you're on opposite teams, opposite side of the the teams, then you can't get along. You can't work things out. There's no way to work things out. Your enemies inside your own home. So don't be enemies. We're here to be a family and to grow and to help each other. Miss Bonnie has improved me a whole lot as time has gone on.
You are going to have disagreements. You have small disagreements, big disagreements. You just got to really just sit down and work it out with each other. Like he said, don't blow up over the small stuff, because the small stuff, like he said, ain't what you want to blow up on. But you just got to sit down and have an open mind and work out the disagreements together. And like he said, work as a team. That's the main thing in a relationship, is being a team with each other, being on the same page with each other, working through stuff. And just most of the time, guys, you got to realize the women's about right all the time. So other than that, I mean, you just got to have an open mind about everything.
How to handle things where it doesn't turn into a fight. You're going to have to use your words, fellas. Not now. Not all men are great, because I teach accelerated English courses. 75% of my class is female. Why? Because typically women are more inclined to the classes that are word-based. Okay? When you do have these disagreements, you're going to have to explain yourself, because you may, I believe he said, we don't always speak the same language. There's an old book back when I first got married. I don't know if it's a Gray wrote it. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. It's a good book that basically says that we communicate differently. But how do you handle it so it doesn't go into a fight? You're going to have to give attention as far as time, not doting on to the point where if they throw us, some kind of a fit, that they get attention from it necessarily. But you're going to have to give them time to communicate to you, let them talk and say as much as they want to say. Give yourself the time to do that, and just make sure you don't let it go without talking it out through the night. I've 22 years of married, nearly 22. It's 22 in a couple of weeks. I don't want to count my chickens. The times that we've gone to sleep where we didn't really solve the issue the whole day, because you don't have time in the morning because you got to get to work and all that stuff. It's the worst, because it's just going to be worse that day. So I don't care if you say it at 2 o'clock. Whatever you got to do, you talk it out. Don't be afraid to use your words and communicate. Let the person know how you feel.
One of the things that I've heard come up over and over again, two of the things that I'd like to point out would be words, explaining, talking about it, that's a big part there, and emotions that play a part in fighting. And just about every one of them said something about calming down after the initial argument. Agreement on that?
Oh yeah, and most arguments are going to happen because one of you're tired, you're overworked, you're stressed, money. We didn't really get a chance to talk about that. What are the things that people fight over the most? I don't think that was the question, is it? But money, money, and money. If I had to list my top 5.
Do any of our wives want to say something on this? We've heard guys' perspectives of fighting. All right. So, you guys personally in your relationships, what kind of things do you do that you would say attribute to your healthy relationship?
Well, Miss Bonnie and I, we start out with a devotional every morning. This is after you're married, right? Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, well, we have our devotional in the morning, we say our prayer, and then we take all of our meals together. So we always sit down and eat our meals at the table. And there's no separate bedrooms. So those are kind of things that make for a healthy relationship there. Like most of the people that don't have healthy relationships, they don't seem to do those things.
Way we maintain a healthy relationship is we have a lot of communication with each other. We talk to each other throughout the day just to check on each other. It's a lot of teamwork because we got 2 little kids, so I mean, if she's trying to prepare dinner or something, I'll try to help out with the kids, schoolwork or bathing or whatever. It's just, you got to have a lot of teamwork in a relationship or in a marriage when you got kids and stuff involved, or just in a relationship in general. You gotta be there for each other, show each other the same respect. I mean, that's what makes a relationship better.
To maintain, you have to do what you did to get it started. If you think after you're married you stop dating, you are misguided. The things that you did to woo, yeah, it's a nice word. The things that you did to gain her or his attention, I know I keep doing this from the male perspective because, that's what I know best. But the things that you did to gain that attention, to gain her trust or his trust, the fun things that you did, even when the kids come. All right, I've got a 16-year-old, 13, and a 12. Ann and I hadn't been able to do something, just the two of us, in like over a year. And we were talking, it's like, you know what, this summer we need to do something like Maywood Week. Hey, we're going to go somewhere. All three, because I was like, I don't have to do that this year. We got, you know, everything covered. We're going to drop them off at Maywood, and we're going, I don't know where we're going. I don't care. We're just going to go somewhere, and we're going to get away. Our youth minister asked us, "Are you coming to Maywood?" I was like, "Ha ha, nice job, pretty boy." No, that's what we hired you. Date, do the fun things that you used to do. If you got her attention by going to Olive Branch to watch the football game and eat at Captain D's, then okay, don't do that. The Olive Branch, the Captain D's Olive Branch is no longer in business. I can't go there anymore. It's not. It's in a bad part of town now, anyway, than it was in 1993.
That's the year I was born. Just
Thanks, Cody. It's all right. It's okay. It was a good time. But do still date. And I say that my wife and I may not have had a chance to go out on a date where we actually go out to eat and whatnot because of kids and responsibilities of work and everything. But we used to, when we were dating, we would talk on the phone at night, way back before you had these things, like a real phone, right? Her dad, don't tell him. Okay, he's 70. I don't know if he can handle this anymore. But he would unplug. He would make her get off the phone, and then she would call me back at 10:02, and we would talk all night to whatever. I don't know. You know, at that point we knew this was something, right, because of all those things. So if talking was important to her back in 1990, whatever, guess what? It's still important. So if she needs to talk, she came home from work today before she went to sleep on the couch. She started telling me about her patient, within what she can do with confidentiality and different things and blah 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 and all this sort of stuff, right? She needed to talk to me. Why? Because I'm her best friend. I know that. I don't talk much about my work because that's just not me. But I know she needs to hear that. We'll still do that. So date, communicate, make time for each other. If she likes it when you get up and make eggs in the morning at 5:30, then do that. You know, do the little things. Don't stop those.
all right. So I'm actually very interested to hear your perspective as a teacher on this one. We asked earlier about the one or two things aspects that would make an unhealthy relationship. What are some signs and patterns that you see in other people's relationships? Maybe it's things that you can see in a friend's relationship that would make an unhealthy relationship.
Well, if let's see, what would be some things? I guess that if you're a young lady dating a fella and he's doing drugs and drinking and cheating on you, and he tells you, "Hey, when we get married, I'm gonna give up all this stuff," then my advice is run, because he's not going to do what you want. Don't, you know, that's a sign of you're going to have a bad relationship right there. Now, let's say that you're dating someone and you're getting these vibes that something isn't quite right, and you have to, check their telephone for strange numbers and their texts and see who they've been calling and stuff. Well, that's not a healthy relationship if you think you have to do that. Same thing if you're married, especially if you're married and you're checking your husband's phone. He's got a series of these numbers, and you call him and a woman answers. Then that's not a good sign. That's a divorce coming up right there. So then, if you have see if I can think of any other signs. Well, if they get up from the table, if they eat fast, get up from the table and leave the house, and they do that every night, what are they doing? Why are they leaving the house? I don't leave the house. If I leave the house, Miss Bonnie goes with me. So, getting back to the communication, when we get up in the morning, we're talking. When we're eating our meals, we're sitting together, we're talking. And then when we go to bed, we're talking too. So it's just, all through the day. I work with my wife. I don't get to speak to her as much at the office as I do elsewhere, but, we're always, communicating with each other. We have 5 grandkids. There's a lot to talk about with 5 grandkids. There's always things that's going on in the family. We have legit church things that we are involved in. Oh, I've kind of gotten off the subject. I'm sorry, Cody. I'll be quiet. I got too verbal there.
Signs of unhealthy relationship would be if you're getting into a lot more disagreements with each other, a lot more arguing, not being trustworthy of the other person. But like you said, if you're checking phones and stuff like that, then you got the trust there. So from then that you're in an unhealthy relationship. People that argue a lot in public that show the signs of it, you can tell more about it. I mean, anybody that argue in public, I mean, they're in an unhealthy relationship. It's just, if you got a lot of disagreements, basically.
Matt, I'm going to add something Matt said, just then kind of popped in my mind about when did you are showing honor and respect for people, it promotes trust. And so that's the three pillars that you have to build relationships on. You've got to have the honor and respect, but you have to have that trust. So if you can't trust the person, then you really don't need to have a relationship with a person that you can't trust. And you've got to have that if you're going to be married. You have to have someone you can trust. So Miss Bonnie, I always tell Miss Bonnie where I'm going and when I'm going to be back. I don't do that for her to check on me, but I want her to know where I am and what I'm doing. And she can find me if she needs me. So that's just the way you keep trust. You don't do things that destroy trust. If you do one thing that destroys trust, well then the whole house of cards will fall down. So you've got to have trust.
And as mentioned before, when he goes somewhere, he says he tells her, if you're not comfortable doing that, there's something wrong.
That's right.
In a classroom for 18 years, I've seen a lot of kids in relationships that I knew they were in a bad one. Sometimes a lot of times they don't know it. And I'm trying to think of all the things that have happened, to let me think that. I'm in a unique situation with my students because I typically will pick them up and have them for 3, sometimes 4 years, and so I kind of build a relationship with my kids. But when they stop hanging around their friends, that's usually a good sign that something's up. They're better friends because they're better friends. They no longer hang with. They hang with, the boyfriend. Or whatever. It's usually that's the direction that I've seen it go. The boyfriend may be controlling, doesn't show trust. I've seen girls that have told the boy that you got to block every girl on your phone, on Snapchat, all this sort of stuff. They got to block them. That's a trust issue. It's an insecurity issue. Something that would need to be addressed, talked about, and determine whether or not that's suitable to keep going forward in that relationship. At the very beginning, I try to lay the groundwork for the fact that they need to make you want to be a better person. But at the same time, you need to feel comfortable with who you are around them. And if you can't be yourself, then that is a sign that something's wrong. When I was a teenager in a class kind of like this, our preacher told us one time, and I thought this was funny because he was unmarried, and as far as we knew, had no prospects for marriage. Okay, and he was talking to us in the teenage class about how to date, and I was like, child, please. But he said, when you go out on a date, if you can't start the date with a prayer with that person, that should be a sign. And I was sitting there going, that's the weirdest thing out in my life. I would never want to do that. But the older I get, the more I realize that's a telling sign. If faith is important to you, and you can't bring faith into the relationship in some aspect, if you can't invite them into your church group and they're hesitant, and again, with my perspective, that was really difficult when I was dating Anna, because one day she asked me, says, all right, I'm singing a special in the choir tomorrow, Sunday morning, I'd like for you to come. And I was like, whoa, we just hit the line. Because I'm going to church with my family, what we're going to have to do. And that could be a discussion for another day. But there needs to be, we realized at that point we had to have the talk. It's serious at this point. So if you can't enter your faith into the relationship and it's comfortable, that is a sign it needs to be worked out. If there's controlling as far as friend group, if they don't want to spend time with your family, if family is important to you, I know a person right now is a good friend of mine. He won't come to the family get-togethers of his family, of his wife, and I'm like, how long is this marriage going to last in a very healthy environment? So if they can't graft themselves into your family in a situation, once it starts getting serious, that's a sign. Listen to your family, listen to your friends. They've got your best interest at heart. If they tell you, hey, you're starting to act different, listen, don't take it personal. That's a sign. They've noticed something. That you start dressing differently. And they tell you, listen to your friends, the people you trust most in your inner circle. Your parents, your family, and your friends, they've got your best interest at heart.
All right. And I'll make this comment before we get out of here, but a lot of the things I was hearing Chris say, from being closer to y'all's age than they are, and from being a youth minister for a while, the things that he's saying sound terrifying from the outside. Being that controlling, you're blind to it on the inside. So when your friends tell you, like he says, be more open to hearing it, because you are blind when you're inside of it. But other than that, thank these guys for being willing to get up here. Thank you for your attention, and leave.